Hello, my loves. Back with another edition of Adrian Talks to Smart People about the moment that we're in. Today, I'm going to be joined by Malkia Devich Cyril, my love. Um, and we're going to experiment with something, which is we'll see how it goes. But we're going to get on and talk to you, be with you um, as people who have done a few things and thought a lot and talk to each other a lot. Hello, my love.
Hey, how are you?
All right. Do you hear me? Do you hear any echo or anything?
I don't hear any echo, but I hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you. You sound wonderful to me.
Mm.
Okay, we did it. We're so brilliant. Okay,
Hey,
I
hey,
believe in
hey.
us. We can do it. Okay, so we're going to be talking today about all kinds of things. Where I started doing this. Basically, you saw me freaking out. I was I was like, "Whoa, hold on." I know I was over here building my own little world and visionary dream things, and then now I'm scared again. Like um but also, I've been over here working really hard on this genocide piece and trying to be part of the movement that really transforms the conditions and transforms the direction there, and really feeling like what's our path, what's our way forward in this moment,
Mm,
like
mm,
what does it mean to move forward. So I was having all that and I was realizing like I'm not rooted in movement in the same way I used to be, where I was facilitating all the time and talking to people all the time, and I knew who was laying it all out and figuring it all out. But I do have some relationships with people who are still doing that work. And I do have relationships with other people who have other perspectives on this work. So a couple weeks ago, I talked to Hala Aliyan. Part of what we touched on was being a Palestinian in this electoral moment.
mm,
Last week, I talked with Makani Themba, and we got into it a little bit. Like, what is this moment? She was talking about the quantum leaps that are possible for us, and
mm. That's right.
really understanding. Yeah. So now I want to talk to you, Malkia. I feel like I expect us to touch on how we're managing the massive grief of this moment inside of the change. I expect us to talk about narrative probably and like what is the
Mm,
story that we're telling about this moment. But we'll see what comes up for us because
mm.
we're just humans on the same timeline as everybody else right now. So, yeah. So the first thing I wanted to ask you, my beloved, you're looking so handsome right now. I'm like, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how are you?
Oh, well, there's a cat.
Hey, cat.
Um,
It's Leo season. Cats be knowing. They're like,
Cats be
we're all
knowing.
here right now. Yeah, yeah,
Cats be
yeah.
knowing. We gonna be joined by cats, so just
Mm-hmm.
FYI. How
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing is I am in a bit of, I don't know if shock is the right word,
Uh-huh.
but I'm feeling surprised. I want to be ready, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure that I am, you
Uh-huh.
know. Um my ideology and my sense of strategy are a bit at war with one another, you know.
I do.
You know what I mean?
I
And
do. Yeah.
and also I'm really, like many people trying to recover from the loneliness of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
trying to balance, right, how to be healthy in this time of extraordinary crisis and stress,
Yeah.
how to stay grounded, how to be connected to community when sometimes I'm like, what I think I need to manage the stress is to just be by myself.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I
Opening
do.
up, opening up, trying to be with love, in a beautiful
Yeah.
way. That's how I'm doing. I got these cats, trying to stay grounded with
Period.
these cats.
Period. I love that. I
I
found
got
this
bad
video. I'm
kids.
allergic to cats, but every time I watch
Mm.
videos of other people enjoying cats, it makes me so happy. Because I'm just like, I know I'm a cat person and I just got messed up because of some toxin in the air or something.
Right,
But I'm like,
right.
I'm supposed to be going brrrr.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So,
Or maybe you
um,
just need to be pet. Maybe it's not even about.
I
Petting
mean,
cats.
that is
I
how I
mean,
act around everybody. I'm like, I don't think you pet me enough
right,
yet.
right,
I'm gonna roll
exactly.
over because I need a little more. Uh,
Get the belly, get the
yeah.
belly.
Listen, all my every relationship I'm in right now, every friendship, every place I go, I'm just like, touch me,
Yes,
hold me like it's the
yes.
last time we're gonna
We
be around
need
each
it.
other.
We
I
need
really
it.
keep feeling like I need to fill myself up, you know?
Yes.
Um, and I will say on the how I'm doing as well, I'm right there with you on the like yesterday, as that news came down of like Biden is stepping down, I felt this
Mm,
rush of positive energy through my body that was like not necessarily about like, oh, someone better is coming, but more
right.
just like there's a large scale spiritual consequence for standing on genocide. And there's
Oh,
a
right.
large scale consequence, like, because I'm like, someone took the words from your mouth. Someone made it so that you could not hold your attention in this job. Someone did some work to make sure that like what was true was apparent to enough people to create a different
Mm-hmm.
possibility in this moment. I don't
Facts.
know if we know what to do with the possibility in this moment. I am moved by the energy I can feel like in the pivot. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, like something changes and you can tell like people could all just be like, I don't care. Or you could feel
Mm-hmm.
like a ton of
Mm-hmm.
people got activated yesterday, a ton of energy
Right.
started moving. And so just spirit, like energetically, the part of me that feels into the collective was like, whoa, something just
Mm,
opened. And
mm.
if we're smart, if we're wise, if we're consistent, if we're community with each other, I think we can find some way to make use of the opening. Um, Even if it's like, oh, more people are willing to do a thing, anything,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I wanted to
Mm-mm.
ask you this question, which my mentor, Grace Lee Boggs, used to always ask us, if we'd come sit in her living room or come be anywhere near her, what time is it on the clock of the world? And I would love to hear where you think we are.
I mean, whenever I think about that question, I
Yeah,
often think, number one, the answer requires many of us, right, to
yes,
be thinking about that question.
yeah,
But for me, in my position,
yeah,
I feel like one, we're in an era of mass loss, you know.
yes,
We're losing people at an unprecedented rate. There's been plenty of periods where there's been war. We experienced the Middle Passage and slavery. We
yeah,
understand loss. As Black people, we understand
yeah,
loss.
yeah.
But the world has not experienced this level of simultaneous emergency, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, at
Mm-hmm.
a time when the world is more connected than ever, it's more separated than ever. And
Mm-hmm.
that, having simultaneous emergencies and at a time when you feel like you can't do nothing, when you feel powerless,
That
the
part.
the stress on the body, on the individual body, the collective body,
Mm-hmm.
it's profound. We're dealing with profound loneliness.
Yeah,
We're dealing with climate emergency. We're
yeah,
dealing with economic insecurity.
yeah.
Everything costs an arm and a leg. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I'm out here trying to figure out how we gonna do the groceries. You know what I'm saying, right?
I do. I
Um,
do.
the failures, right, of democracy that's left our infrastructure crumbling in
Yeah.
cities across the United States. We
Yes.
got wars in multiple places. We got civil wars. We got colonial wars. We got all kind of wars going on. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The
Yeah.
level of violence, the mass shootings, the police killings. We are at we are at a point. We are in a moment.
Yes.
And in a moment like this, when we are under such threat,
Yeah.
it becomes hard to enact solidarity. I was just
Mm.
talking with somebody about this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when we are dealing with multiple threats and we're finding it hard to be in community and to enact solidarity, and we
Mm.
punch in laterally instead of up, we
Laterally.
actually
I'm just
laterally.
making sure that people understand.
Oh, I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
horizontally, you know what I'm saying? To our loved ones, friends, allies, comrades, those
Yes.
not responsible for the conditions that we're facing.
That's right.
We just end up in a very difficult place. And I think that is where we are right now, a very difficult place.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think it as moment like Gramsci talked about it as an interregnum, you
Mm-hmm.
know, a
Mm-hmm.
period of instability between stable governments. We're in a moment of chaos,
Mm-hmm.
a long moment that will probably last quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of that, if we can ground politically, you know, if we can work on our trust, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if we can build our relationships, because relationships, as we know, are the smallest unit of power,
Yeah.
you know, if we can do those things, then we can do like Prentice reminded us a
Yes.
few days ago, that chaos don't have to be bad.
Yes.
Chaos don't have to be a threat.
That's right.
Chaos is simply the conditions.
That's right.
And our job is to analyze the conditions, to assess them, to understand them, and then to make moves based on an accurate understanding of the conditions and an assessment of our power. It's not enough to be
Mm-hmm.
ideologically correct. You feel me? It's
I do.
insufficient. It's
Mm-hmm.
insufficient. This ain't, well, I'll get into that. But the point is that sometimes disruption is needed. And I think right
Yes.
now we're in a period of disruption, and we need that. We need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I really, really appreciate that because I keep thinking that you know, trying to hold the Octavia of it all and trying to hold the like, how does it feel in the body and to feel how like, how satisfying it feels to make a move by myself sometimes and be like, yeah,
Mm.
y'all know how I feel about
Look
it
how
and
I
you got
roll.
it and you know I'm so right. And I can get so like I'm like I know I'm
Yeah.
right, right? So being right, being that Virgo earth sign right. Like I'm just
Mm,
like I'm
mm,
right to the root, you know. I
mm.
can get in there and then I'm like, "Oh, but I'm not right if I'm not with."
That's
Right?
right.
I'm like, I'm not right if I'm not thinking long term, like I really have been shifting out of thinking in the immediate cycle. I've really been trying to train my mind to be like, how far out can I go? And
That's right.
what are the
That's right.
scenarios if this happens, if that happens? And there's no scenario in which me being alone and righteous in this moment actually serves anybody in the moments that I care about ahead of us. So I really keep trying to tune into that and be like, okay, which part is my righteousness? Which of these paths is actually carved only by my righteousness? And then which of these paths is carved in relationship? And that's part of why I was like, I need to have these conversations outside of my head. Because in my
Mm,
head, there's only a high horse and like some steps up to that high horse,
mm, mm,
I have to be honest about that because there's still the part of me that's like, I'm a world builder. I write worlds in which it's like, this is how it's supposed to go. This is what works. I create systems where it's like, this works. So
mm-hmm.
being in a situation where I'm like, I am powerless over a lot of the parts of this that I have better ideas for. And I'm with a bunch of people who have those better ideas for lots of different things. And I'm with a bunch of people who struggle to practice sometimes, right? We struggle
Mm.
to practice our good ideas with each other because we get caught up on seeing the system in each other instead of seeing each other.
Thanks. That's right.
And so I really feel like this moment is like, okay, how do I see you? How do I see the system in all of us? And how do I see what's politically possible in this moment for the longest term?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
hold
Yeah.
all of that complexity. And,
Mm,
I do feel like Octavia tried to shed a light. I keep saying this to people like,
mm.
and I think we misunderstand it sometimes. I think, I always read the part of why I go back to Octavia over and over again is because people are like, yeah, acorn, bam. And I'm like, and what happened to acorn, y'all? Acorn
Yeah.
got destroyed by Christian
Mm,
fascists who overtook it.
mm-hmm.
We can't just build acorn in a vacuum. She warned
That's
us
right.
about the whole cycle that we needed to be prepared for. And so I want to ask you, like,
Mm,
which also doesn't mean that they could have stopped the Christian fascists, right?
right.
But it's like, how do we make a stand that actually brings us in closer to each other rather
Mm.
than making stands that again isolate us? So the question I wanted to ask you is, what do you wish people understood more, better, or deeper in this moment?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
um,
I love your little sleepyhead face. I
I'm
love it.
tired.
I
We
know.
all tired.
We're
We all
so
tired.
tired. We are so,
Hmm.
so. That's also part of what time it is on the clock of the world right now.
It is.
Is an
It is.
exhausting time and trying to make good decisions while exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say the thing I want people to know and understand. I want us to begin to, and I've been working myself to deeply understand grief,
Mm-hmm.
to understand that grief is not an emotion, it's a
Mm.
process.
Yeah.
To understand that loss is not an emotion, it's an event.
Oof.
To
Okay.
understand that the emotions of loss that live between loss and grief are many. Sorrow isn't the only one available to us. There is joy
Yeah.
inside of when we remember, when all the monuments we will erect to our freedom, all the institutions and organizations we erect as those monuments to our vision,
Yeah.
those are the material reality, the condition, the physical manifestation of our
Yeah.
grief. Grief is a
Yeah.
process. Grief is a process by which we heal. Grief is a process by which we respond to losses. And the thing is that as we think about this election period, right, there's a relationship, just as there's a relationship between death and democracy, because there is, right? People don't, I mean, I think we understand that like democracy or our political system doesn't just determine, who eats and who don't. It determines who lives and who dies, right? And what's at stake as a result isn't simply our ideology, isn't simply even our rights, it's
Mm.
our lives. And so the what I hope people understand as we think about and root in grief as a process, grief as a transformative process that will change us for the better. If we when we understand that, we can think about democracy and elections in a particular way as a part of the grief cycle, as a part of the way we are responding to what we have lost.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Let our
It's not
losses source our next moves. Let our losses
exactly.
guide
Let
us.
the
Uh-huh.
That's right. And that, but not only allowing our losses to guide us, because um loss can guide you in a radical direction. It can guide you radically in a revolutionary direction or a reactionary direction. The distinction
Yeah.
in between that is about your principles. The challenge for us, the thing
Yeah.
I wish we understood,
Yeah.
is that our ability to move in a transformative direction, in a revolutionary direction, means that we have to be able to ground in principles, ground in ideology, be guided by both, but not be narrowed by either. Do you
Ooh.
understand what I'm
Say
saying?
it again.
We can't be narrowed by ideology, by this righteousness that you spoke about,
Right.
nor can we be narrowed by this overblown sense of principle. Our principles
Mm.
are there to guide us. They're
Mm-hmm.
there to guide us. They're not there to determine in entirety our strategy. We have to, other things help determine our strategy. Our understanding
Right.
of the material conditions has to be part
Right.
of our assessment and part of our action. I wish that we understood that. And I think that when we root in grief, and our understanding of grief as a process, that it helps us to one, to be more embodied, and when we're more embodied, we can be in greater understanding of what's true, right? So I'm about that. I want to bring embodied grief to the political conversation. And I might be all over the place. I apologize. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but
I'm tired of people being on some like talking point thing. I want to hear
okay,
all over the
great.
place. I want to hear
Okay,
the
well,
truth.
here it is. Here it is. I wish we would also remember that we're defending each other, not a political system of neoliberal democracy. We're defending one another. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying?
That's
And
right.
when I turn and face this election, that's what I'm thinking about. What will save the greatest number of lives? I don't care about the presidency. The presidency is not a vehicle for transformative change. What I care about is whether or not the presidency can give my people more room to defend each other. That's it. That is the point. Which, what cabinet, what administration will give me the room, the space to grieve? What cabinet will give me the space to take action and organize? They're not the ones that's going to make the change. I'm not looking above me for transformation. I'm looking inside me. I'm looking to the left and to the right of me. I'm looking around me, to my people, to myself. So that's the thing. It's about our communities. It's not about, it's about people, not a politician. So but I will say this. Like we looking
That
to
said.
fight another day. Right. We looking to fight another day.
Yeah.
But I'm very clear. A historic vote for a Black woman president is not going to transform American imperialism. Let's be clear about that. I know that.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that I'm not confused, about
Yes.
that fact.
That's
I'm very clear, but it will give us some room. It you
uh-huh.
look, here's how I'm thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah, break it down.
The First of all, you're not going to hear this, on CNN, but we know that the Justice for Palestine movement, the Palestine Solidarity movement, had everything to do with this transition, this withdrawal of President Biden from the
Thank
coming
you.
election. We
I was
know
like,
that.
the
We know
uncommitted
that.
vote was a thing.
It was a thing. It was not, and it wasn't just that. It was the people in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
It
The
was all
encampments.
the encampments, the student protests. It was everything. It was
Yes.
all of it. So this is what I'm talking about. A fight on a single front can make more room, and we have to remember.
I really want to highlight this, Mac, too, because I
Mm,
think of you as a narrative strategist. So it's part of why
mm,
I'm like, part of why I turn to you in these moments is I'm like,
mm.
you know, I, my truth bone is real strong. And so my
That's
truth bone
right.
is like, tell the truth. That's because of Palestine. Y'all, that's because of
Tell the
Palestine,
truth. Tell the
But then I'm
truth.
like, okay, calm. I was like, I can see the narrative stuff playing out, right? Where it's sort of like, oh, like he stumbled on the talk and so we took him off the thing. And it's so interesting to be like, what matters? How much does it matter which story gets told about this versus finding these ways to open to saving the most lives, right? And in the storyline right now, it's very deep to notice that we can be making all these advances for Palestine, and that will not be part of the mainstream narrative, and it will never, that they're not going to tell the story of what's actually happening around that. Even as we see the massive rulings happen, we have to understand who the U.S. is in this imperialist context. That the U.S. is
Mm-hmm.
not going to tell a story of being held accountable in any way for its imperialism ever. Um,
Facts.
all right. So I'm really grateful to hear someone like you lift that up and just be like, but the truth of the story is actually
But
movement has had this massive
but
impact.
that's the point right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just about the fight for a free Palestine.
Yeah.
That is what we're talking about right now.
Yes.
But the story is that organizing gets the goods, right? The
That's right.
story is that movements win. It's up to us to tell that story,
Yes.
that
We tell it.
story that, yeah, that organizing gets the goods, that movements are the reason for, like, this is not just about Biden withdrawing from the election. Because of movements and the conflation, excuse me, the confluence of multiple
Mm-hmm.
movements, right?
That's right.
At the same time, moving on many agendas at the same time. That's why, the whole thing about Kamala isn't, this means that we might have the opportunity to reinstate the right to an abortion.
Uh-huh.
This means that we might have the next 4 years to retake the House and the Senate and put the left in a position, okay, to retake federal and state agencies. This means that we might have the opportunity to build our organizations, to build our bases, to expand our power so that in the next election in 2028, we might actually be able to do something to disrupt the two-party system. This is a long-term fight.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't even about the next 4 years. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the next 50. And
Right.
the thing is that you asked me what I wish people understood. It's that. It's like
Yeah.
this is a 50 and 100-year strategy that we're trying to enact. And what we do today creates the steps. All we're doing is making room.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think the main thing is that, this is a long-term fight and it requires us to think big, and that when we are under threat, we and when we're afraid,
Uh-huh.
we tend to think small, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And we need the creativity that big thinking gives us in order to
Mm-hmm.
get to that place. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
place we're trying to get. We're talking about reconstruction. We're not talking about winning a single fight right now.
Right.
We're talking about moving toward reconstruction. And I think in order for us to think big, to be able to stay open when we're being faced with multiple threats,
Yeah.
to think about elections clearly,
Yeah.
what they represent, what they are, and what they are not, what they are not, particularly
Yeah.
presidential elections. You're not going to get a presidential candidate, a viable one, that in any way reflects your politics if you're on the left. Not going to happen. So, not in America, not in America, not
Yeah.
today, not in the next 50 years.
Yeah.
So, how do we use the election to move us in the direction of our freedom? That's the
Yeah.
question at hand.
That's
That's
right.
the only question at hand for me.
Yeah.
Understanding that the liberatory path
Yeah.
is a it's a path with cats, and it's a path that leads back to ourselves. It always leads back to ourselves. Always.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate you saying this. And I think it's also, there's some humility in it because I think part of what happens is we have to recognize how much we also get bought into the American experiment. And we have to like catch ourselves. It's almost like it's like, oh, I'm under this really heavy blanket that I'm used
Right.
to the weight of.
That's
And
right.
it always tells me that I have to stay laid down on my back and that there's no move I can make. And the one thing that can happen is once every 4 years I can say this. And I'm like, no, that's the to me, I always say that. It's like, how do we reframe this? So it's like the
Mm,
least of the things you do rather than the main thing that you get all fired up about is this. It's like the least thing you do is participate in the federal election. You do that.
that's
It's the
right.
least thing you do. And then you keep building with your community and you prepare for all kinds of conditions. Because that's the other thing, I could see some people holding the tension between, well, Octavia told us to get ready and what do we do about this? I'm like, I'll get ready. I was like, if we end up with a black woman candidate, a black Indian woman candidate with a Jewish husband, if we end up with that, like the same people who want to come out with their guns and pew 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 the universe are going to pew 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 the universe.
Pew
Like
pew pew.
there's no not pew pew pew. I don't see a not pew 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 path. What I do see is how do we figure out how to be in, because that's what I'm thinking about is like who am I with and how do we protect ourselves and not sink down to the pew 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 but how do we actually get to create a community structures that keep us safe during
That's right.
and through this transition. And by safe, I don't mean safe sitting somewhere where your life is all the same DoorDash event of all time. What I mean
Mm-hmm.
is like safe, like as many of us as possible make it through the portal of this transformation, right? As many of
Yes.
us as possible make it through. Um, so given that we sort of have this moment of where like, okay, there's this something, right? What do you see as right action right now? Like, what would you like to see folks spending their energy on, extending themselves to?
I think there are many paths to right action.
Mm.
And what I don't want to see is big D Democrats. I mean, any only big D's up in here need to be, that big D energy.
March.
You know what I'm saying?
I was
That's
like,
it.
wait, you totally caught me off guard.
I'm just saying, I don't want to see these big D Democrats bullying,
No.
you know, um, our communities. I don't want to see these big D Democrats telling us what we have to do. I don't want to see folks bullying Muslim and Palestinian communities about their election choices.
Right.
there are many paths to right action.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I believe that. I
Yeah.
think that, but so that's one thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is that, this election it isn't simply between neoliberalism and fascism. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
between neoliberalism and fascism. I don't
Yeah.
want either one, but that's
Yeah.
what the decision is between right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also between um, an acknowledged grief and a disenfranchised grief. It's between um, a path forward and a path backward.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what we're working with. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're
Mm-hmm.
working with the fact that we're in a country that has been litigating the Civil War since it happened. We continue to litigate the Civil War. And we
Mm-hmm.
live in a country that has built monuments to a war that was lost, right? We built monuments,
Mm-hmm.
right, to
Yes.
that war.
That lasted
And
for 4 years
four
also,
years, for
which,
4 years,
yes,
for 4 years. And I think it's important for us to really understand that when we think
yes,
about and we try to ground in what is right action.
yes,
You we have to remember what I said just a moment ago. The presidential election is not where we fight for liberation. It's where we fight for space. You
that's
know,
right.
I was on a call last night. 40,000 Black women and genderqueer people and allies came together.
Okay,
Um,
you're on it.
oh yeah, I was
Yeah,
on there. And first of all, it
yeah.
was hilarious. I love Black people. Everywhere we go, we Black. So we was
At all
talking over
times.
each other. You know what I'm saying? Nobody understood how to use the mute button.
Forty
My
thousand people struggling with the
yes,
mute button. I love
my no,
it.
it wasn't all them people, but it was the speaker people.
Okay.
Folks that were speaking.
I
But
was like,
my
man,
my beautiful, I mean, my amazing sister Maxine Waters. There was an echo. We was trying to really hear what she was saying, and just the Zoom. It was an amazing feat, and
wow.
yet still 40,000 Black women, genderqueer people, and allies came on a call within moments. I mean, people was just sending me the link and
Yeah,
what. I think that we talk about right action. That's right action.
yeah.
Move, move, take a action, take a step, because the
Mm-hmm.
moment is trying to push us toward pessimism, toward isolation, and what we are mandated to do is to
Yeah,
resist. Is to resist that.
that's right.
That's so all right action leads to resisting pessimism. So anything we can do
That's
to bring
right.
inspiration, to bring a sense of vision, to bring, to understand, to bring greater understanding. That's right action. Now, to me,
Yeah,
for me, I'm not gonna
yes.
tell nobody else what they're supposed to do, but for me, I want to be deployed to a state that requires my support.
Uh-huh.
You know,
That's
that
right.
could use my support. I want to go and I want to knock
Like,
on
come
doors.
on over.
Yeah,
I live.
yeah. I'm trying to come. I'm trying to come visit you. Because I want
Yeah,
to do that. I want to
yeah,
door knock. I want to speak to my
yeah,
people. I
yes,
want to I want to move my people. I want to move Black people.
yeah.
I want to move poor people. I want to move queer people. I want to talk to
Mm,
people who are progressive and who are confused and worried right now. I want to talk to the left
yeah,
who is feeling like, how can I, in my principle,
yeah,
vote for somebody who stood next to Genocide Joe? Like, how can I, in my principle, do that? Because I understand that. Because I
yeah,
understand that. I want to have that conversation. I don't think we can avoid those conversations. Like
yeah,
that's right action. The right action is to take action. The wrong
yeah.
action is to do nothing.
I really, really appreciate this, Mac. You're always so pragmatic, and it really helps ground me because I'm like, in the ether sphere, like witching and ancestral and doing all this stuff, and then it's like really coming into like the tangible, And I think all that stuff is also important and a part of why we're here, but I also think the
Absolutely.
tangible matters, and I keep reminding myself that, and wanting to remind everybody that electoral politics is not going to be your political home, but this can be a time to clarify where you need to deepen into political home, to find some other people that you trust and
That's
roll
right.
with each other. Find some other
Mm-hmm.
people that you trust and make a good plan for how you take care of each other. Make, literally, I'm just like, make sure you know the way to each other's houses without
Come on.
GPS.
I'm a
Write
member
down
of the
some
Working
phone numbers
Families
that are not
Party.
inside of the
Yes.
thing. Be a member of
Yes.
the Working
Come
Families
on.
Party.
Join.
Be a member of Black Organizing for Leadership and Dignity.
Let's
Be a member
go.
of Black Feminist Futures.
That's
There's
it.
so many people who are like, we're not just, you don't, I keep telling people, you don't have to do this by yourself, and you're not going to figure it out scrolling the internet at 11 o'clock at night. It's going to be something that you're in conversations with people who share values with
That's
you, thinking
right.
about what our community most needs in this moment, and how do we make those moves, and which compromises are the smart compromises to make. Because I also think that, a few months ago or weeks
You
ago, I
have
don't even,
to.
time is a whatever, but I kept saying, like, don't give up before we try.
Yeah.
Don't compromise before you've actually tried. And as a mediator, you're always like, you have to say what you really want, and you have to say what you really want, and then we're going to find what's possible. And if what you really want is the end of genocide, then you have to find community who also want that, and figure out, what is the best way we get through this moment, right? What is the best way that we can actually advance that cause? And if it's climate, what's the best way we can advance that cause? And if it's both, what's the best way? And if it's abortion, what's the best way? The other thing I wanted to ask
Mm.
you, last question, because if we're glitching, I don't want to glitch too long. I think you've been saying this all throughout everything you've been answering, but what are you practicing to protect your beliefs during this time?
Because I believe that the question for me is whether or not this nation will be ushered into a grieving process that allows us to confront our losses,
Yeah.
or be defined by the grievances and denials of white nationalism, patriarchy, and fascism. This is the choice I believe we are faced with today, not just because of the election, but because of the first question you asked:
Mm.
where are we?
On the clock of the
What
world.
time is it on the clock of the world?
Yeah.
Because I believe at the end of the day, those are the terms of debate.
Mm.
What I have to do, I think my job is first and foremost, what I have to practice is I have to practice grief is my practice.
Yeah.
And what that means to me is, number one, that I'm practicing authentic relationship at all times. Um, and that means authentic political relationship as well as authentic personal relationship.
Yeah.
I believe that strengthening my capacity for relationship, my capacity for conflict, my
Mm.
capacity for compassion, this is a part of how we survive, in the midst of the chaos and the corruption and the violence and the pain. Um, because I believe it's my job to counter despair and to resist pessimism,
Mm-hmm.
um, I I follow a philosophy called Salvatore Ambulando. It is done by walking,
Mm.
and Salvatore Ambulando is Latin. And it is done by walking simply means that sometimes a problem is too great for you to figure it out by thinking it through, by talking about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to walk the path.
Yeah.
When my wife died, um, 5.5 years ago, there was no solving that problem. When my mother died, there was no solving that problem. When my friends died and my uncle recently died, these are not problems I can solve.
That's right.
These are conditions I've had to face and be transformed by.
Mm.
And part of the truth is that I didn't know what to do under those conditions.
Yeah.
And what I had to do was simply take a step, and then another step, and then another one, and do that in relationship with other people.
Yeah.
And that's what I think organizing is. is taking a step and then another step in relationship with other people. Um, and so
Yeah.
I practice that. That's my practice. I meditate, I meditate. Um, I practice love, you know. I practice
Yes.
love. I'm a lover, and
Indeed.
I love my cats.
Mm. Yeah.
I love my friends. I love
Hmm.
my people.
Yes.
Um, and I'm opening up to new love right now, and I believe it's a practice, not
I
simply,
believe so.
something, a
That's,
thing that we do.
I
It's a
believe that
hard
too.
practice. It's a hard thing to do.
Hmm.
Um, and so those are some of the things. I mean, I run Pandemic Joy. We
Yeah.
gather on Sundays virtually, and I
Yeah.
practice singing. I
Yes.
think freedom songs in the tradition of our ancestor, Bernice Johnson Reagan, Dr. Reagan held us together with our freedom songs, and the movement has held us with freedom songs. Let me tell you
Mm.
something.
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
understand where the singing is at. Bring the singing back.
Yes.
Put
Yeah.
the singing back in the street. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Take it
Yeah.
out the concert hall, put it in the street,
Yes. Yeah.
because
I see
that's
it
where we
happening.
gonna
I see it
survive
happening.
more and more,
Hmm.
right? More and
Hmm.
more. We're bringing it
Yeah.
back, and
Yes.
we need it.
Yeah.
We
I
need
heard
it. We're
there's a
not gonna
big old
survive without
movement
that.
choir thing
Yep,
developing in Atlanta.
yep.
I
Mary
keep
Hooks
hearing
and
about
them
different
got it.
people who are starting
That's
choirs
right.
where they are. I'm
That's
starting to
right.
talk to some people here in Durham about what that could look like. So,
Let me
yeah,
join the
I feel you
choir.
there.
Yeah,
I
and it's
mean,
not
this
about
is,
being able to
I think
sing
this is such
either.
a big part is being in the practice of being a choir member, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're a singing choir member or
That's right.
not, like learning how to
That's
be
right.
like, I'm part of something larger than myself. My part
Mm-hmm.
matters. It's not the only part. I have to
Mm-hmm.
know when it's my solo.
And
I
it
have to
and it
know when
don't
I'm a part of the
require
chorus.
it don't require
Hmm. That's
expertise.
right.
It don't require that you be a singer. You
That's
know,
right. That's
singing
right.
just requires that you open your mouth, and let out a
Baby,
joyful noise. You know what I'm saying? And I want
I need to
that.
hear that all the time because I was like, I was trained to get it right. And I'm like, let it go,
Let it
let it go.
go.
Just
Let it
sing the song
go.
that's
Let
in
it
your
go.
heart, sing the song
Let
that's in
it
your
go.
spirit.
That's it.
One thing I wanted to say, Mac, that as you were talking about grief, I was thinking about the people in my that they're still coming up on my feed that feel neoliberal to me or still feel liberal or feel like um, that they're like, I see all the problems, but I still think we can solve it if we just get the right president, if we just get this system a little better. And I think one of the invitations for grief for those folks is the invitation to grieve the part of America that still lives in you. Because
That's
in this moment,
ashtray.
I think there's something, if we think about the America that was founded on genocide and founded on slavery and founded on unfair labor and founded on patriarchy and founded on causing so much harm. It's the inevitable place, the landing place of all of that without any healing, without any reparation, without any work. This is where we land. But I
Mm-hmm.
think if you can grieve the part of that America that still lives in you, then
Mm-hmm.
you can actually tune into like, well, what is
What's
the work of the
possible?
people
That's right.
here, right? And who are the indigenous leaders that we turn to understand more about what this land wants to be and knows it can be? How do we turn to the parts in ourselves that know how to make a direct relationship to land without the interlocutor of those who would create borders and ownership over it all, right?
And
Like
that's right.
there's
That's
that
right.
grief work, like there's a tree in my yard that I'm like, that's my
Mm,
homie. Like, and we're talking, and I'm like, that tree doesn't care who says they own it. It is sovereign. It is growing, and it is also trying to survive. And anyway, so there's part of it, even for me, that has to constantly remember that grief practice and be like, right, I grew up thinking that I would also find a steadiness somewhere ahead of me, and that was part of what America meant. And I'm like, I have to keep letting that go too. That I'm like, the only steadiness I will find will be in community, will be in love, will be in
That's,
relationship, it will be in
that's right.
big ideas that I hold for my whole life.
And
But it won't come from
that's why grief
a
is
wounded
no.
nation that won't heal.
And that's
Yeah.
why grief is a practice. That's
Yes.
why grief is a practice. That's
Yeah.
why it's something we have to do deliberately. We have to take action around our grieving deliberately, move through the process. I mean, that's why we have to embody it. That's why it
Yeah.
needs to be accompanied. so that it can be
Yeah,
both radical and transformative for us. That is the goal. That's
that's
the
right.
mission. The fact is that we're all trying to build a life on top of something horrible. We're all trying to build a future on top of some death, you know, on top of
That's right.
something we've done wrong, on top of something that's been done wrong to us. We're all trying to build something on top of that.
That's right.
The nation is the same.
That's right.
The nation is trying to we as a as a body of people, that share a history, a colonial history,
Yeah,
are trying to build something on top of something devastating. How do you do
that's
that?
right.
And all over the world, people are trying to do that in Haiti, in Palestine, in the Congo. Everywhere in the world, people are trying to build freedom on top of a devastation. And we're doing that too as individuals. And if we don't
That's right.
allow ourselves to find ways to navigate loss, to face loss and
Yes,
navigate it, we can't lean into the future. We can't open
right.
up our hearts and our bodies and our minds to what's possible. And that's what we need to do right now to save
That's
our
right. We have to,
lives.
I love this because it's just like grief is the process by which humans compost. That is
That's
our
right.
process.
That's right.
That is how we take all of this death culture and maybe have a chance to turn it into something that can bloom
I
again.
should.
Lachey, I love you so much.
I
Thank
love
you
you.
for being willing to turn and jump into this. And I
Oh, I'm
always
gonna do
learn from
anything
you.
Adrian asked me to do. So Adrian asked me to do it. Look, how much
Look,
time? 5 minutes? Here I go. Let's go.
it's mutual, you know. It's like let's do it. I'm gonna post this so that we have our two-part conversation. That makes
All
us seem
right.
so fancy and
One
so,
and two. Mm-hmm.
over with it. And I'll also be posting it in the feed of the How to Survive podcast. And feel free to share the conversations. If you learned something from Malkia today, feel free to share the conversations with other people on and off Instagram who you feel could also use this medicine. Okay.
Love.
All right.
Love.
Till we free.
Yes.